shed. It's 16 by 12, so I'm gonna start stocking up on plecos again very soon. So when you think of a pleco, this is probably what comes to mind first of all, and I'm not referring to Ken Davis, but the pleco in front of him. As you can see, they get big. The ones we probably buy at PetSmart or Walmart. But hopefully by the end, we can think of a pleco or something like this. This Hypancistrus zebra L46. Here's a little introduction. Remember that what works for me may not work for you, so it's very important to remember that. I will go through a short background. I'm going to be doing something like how do you select your plecos, your water parameters, diets, breeding your plecos, and an image display of the L numbers. And as well as a little bit of preserving Brazil, because that's where a lot of these fancy plecos come out of. So we need to preserve their natural environment in order to be able to bring it into the country. I was born in Colombia, South America. I moved to the United States 12 years ago. I just finished my undergrad degree from Belmont Abbey College. Double major in business and sports management. And I've always had a passion for fish, except plecos. I used to hated them. I couldn't even see one because I used to be grossed out by them. Turns out I was really good at breeding them, and the rest is history. Same thing with frogs. I was grossed out by frogs, and I started keeping poison dart frogs, and now I'm cool with that. I also started breeding plecos about 8 years ago. Here's a little background. Choosing the right pleco it all has to do with the level of commitment you put into it. Some plecos can be very easy. Some others will be very picky. It is important to research the potential size the fish will get. You have very nice plecos that will get huge, like Adonis, very black with white dots, but they get about this big. And you have the 46s, the Hypancistrus zebra, that will only get a few inches. So keep that in mind for future. You will need that. Here we have Pseudohemidion apithenus, and I have a horrible accent to pronounce Latin names, so bear with me there. They're also known as chameleon whiptails. This is a very sensitive species, and if you don't commit to them, they will probably don't last very long in your aquariums. And you got Lesiancistrus from Rio de Janeiro. This is actually a species that was collected by Scott Arney. Some of you know him by the store down in Hickory that closed. Great guy, great friend. He's one of my mentors in the pleco hobby. That's how I got most of my plecos. But this fish was collected in a mud hole in Peru, and literally I just forgot about this fish. I left him in the pond until late into the fall, and he survived. It's just one of those fish that will not die very easily. Here's my water parameters in my house. When I was, had the fish room in the house. The ranges are on my pH anywhere between 5 and 7. It comes out of the tab at 7 and it instantly starts dropping. So very acidic. I keep the temperatures in the tank at 82 Fahrenheit. Plecos like warmer water, and keep in mind with warmer water you need more oxygen. So a lot of bubbles, a lot of water surface movement, and you want to keep that on the top, basically. My water changes were done twice a week, and tan water. If you want to be able to see your plecos because they're very shy, I would suggest this. Tan water, the importance of it is that it makes the pleco feel very kind of comfortable in this tank, so it'll come out, and it'll also help their immune system. Their diets. You want to take a look at their mouth structure. Here's the top 6 general that you can find easily out there in Aquabit or other members. You got Hypancistrus. They do prefer meaty foods. They're like the carnivores. Picoltias, omnivore. They'll eat anything, as well as most other plecos. But this is their main stuff. Panax, they are the green and wood eaters. That's why you see them. A lot of crap in your water. If you have a panax, they're basically just eat the wood away and crap it off, so they don't move from that spot. You got Bariancistrus, which is like gold nuggets. They're gracers. They eat a lot of protein, veggies, fish, eggs, and cistrus. You're daily vegetarians, but they will eat anything. Basically like Steven was telling me, they were eating his plants away. So you want to keep an eye on that too. And Leporacanthicus, they have a set of teeth that will crush snails, so they prefer that kind of food. Here's some of the stuff I feed right now. The canned stinking catfish sticks. They love that stuff, as well as the meat and spirulina wafers. The earthworms, except the spirulina wafer alone, they will not touch it, and it will have mold on there. My placos will literally just look at me and say, like, flip me off from the tank because they don't like that stuff. Pleco cane. I wonder if they do use cocaine in that thing because they love it. As soon as it touches the water, they'll shoot to it, and by the time it gets down to the gravel, they're eating it.
Is that another chemistry?
Pleco cane. I actually got this at the South Carolina one. I'm not sure who makes it right now. I just know I got it there, and I got a few samples to last me a long time. Bloodworms, blackworms, and mysis shrimp. Mysis, yeah. I start feeding this when I want to get them ready to breed. I do like a cycle, something like a dry season, wet season. So I would adjust them with, when I was in school, I was able to forget my fish for a few weeks and not do water changes, and the water started to evaporate, creating a dry season. And I would start, feeding them more protein, so stuff like this. And by the time I was able to do a water change, cold water came in, and they're like, "Oh man, we're ready to, get down to business." Here's a Picoltia. I don't know if you can see the mouth structure from up there, but it will show you the teeth. There's Picoltia compta eating vegetables. Panat, this is the royals. You see their spoon-shaped teeth. That's why they're able to scrape that wood. And if most of you have kept any of them and have wood in your tanks, if you look close enough, you'll see little streaks coming down, and that's from them eating away. So you just basically eat down, and you can, if you have any panats, any royal plecos, you'll be able to notice that tonight if you get home and look for that in the wood. That's a big fish, about that big, probably. Leperocanthicus, like I mentioned, they have a set of teeth, as you can tell right here. When I was taking this picture, he actually got a bite out of my finger, and after that, I would never mess with that fish again. I would leave him in his tank alone and, just wave at him basically because it hurt him. He also has a set of spines through him, and they're very territorial. So you want to give them a lot of room, a lot of space for them to, basically the male is set in the cave, and they'll fight for territory, they'll fight for the cave. So enough space is required for them. Sultan, this is another Leperocanthicus eating blackworms. Getting the right plecos. So when selecting the plecos, I always want the healthiest available. You want to look for healthy eyes, no sunken eyes basically. And if you have a chance to get your hands in the water, grab the pleco, flip him over, and see if he has a okay belly, full belly, no sunken belly. No signs of stress or deformities. And if you're buying online, just request pictures and research the seller's feedback. It's everything's online now, so you can find that stuff. Here you have an example of sunken belly, and it's actually caused by a lot of stress, so the fish stops eating, and a lot of parasites as well cause that, and it's really hard to turn a pleco back from that point. When breeding plecos, I always approach the idea of nothing's impossible. Although a lot of the species out there in the hobby have not been bred yet, it doesn't mean it cannot be done. So right now I know a friend of mine is working with the blue-white panats, the Cochleodon, and I have a picture of them, but they're probably about this big, and then I think he said it takes them about 5 years to mature. So you need a lot of patience for some of these species of plecos. Normally I start with about 7 or 8 plecos, just to keep my ratios, a little heavy on females and maybe 2-3 males. But if I have to go to a pair or a trio when they're big enough to sex, I will go with that too. What to look for? So the males, mostly, they're shaped like a V, and I have a picture to show you that. If you look at them from above, from the top, the females are actually bigger in their belly, a little longer, more like a teardrop. And I have a picture to show you that as well. The males have random pelvic fins, and this is used to circulate water through their On Bicoltia species, the males have hairy, kind of like odontos on the pelvic, section of their body. While in some species, there's still some of the species, the males naturally stay in the caves, and the females do all the running around the tank. And citrus, they, normally the males have the bushy nose, the hairs, but in some species, like I'll show you in a second again, pictures, the females do have the bristle nose, and they're, a lot basically. So you're like, oh wait, what happened to the rule of the males having bushy nose and the females not having anything? So there's rule breakers out there. So here's a Leporacanthicus. You can actually see how the male here's got more rounded, pelvic fins, and it's kind of like a V shape. She's a little plumber. The fins are not as round, and you can just tell. Here's another Ancestral species in A. It's probably one of the biggest species known of Ancestral. But you can tell, I bought this whole group, and all of them have the big bushes. So, at this point I was like, oh man, I got all males. Scott Arning imported this from Peru, and I was like, man, you didn't bring any females. Put them in a 55-gallon tank. 2 weeks later, there was 1,000 little babies on top of the 55-gallon tank. So I was like, oh, well, there's definitely a female in there. So that made me, kind of gives you like, oh, thank God. There it is, big pleco, big bushy nose, pretty much. Here's a female Bicoltia. You can see how plump she is in the middle right here, and then she goes down. She's full, she's rounded, like I was telling you. There's a male. These shape on the Bicoltia species, I mentioned that they have hairs like on their tails. So that's another thing to look for when you're buying a Bicoltia. Here's one of my setups back when I was in the house with the fish. This is a 10-gallon tank. This is my L201s. A few caves, and just a lot of water flowing with the sponge filter. It's very simple. As you can see, no gravel, just so I can clean it better. And I also noticed that when I was using when I didn't have any gravel in there, when I was feeding black worms, they will hang out near the cave, so the male didn't have to go too far to come out to eat. So he could take a break from taking care of the fry and the eggs. There's a L201 baby, tiny little guys when they, first born. There's a bigger baby that I left in the tank for, for the development of bigger groups. Here's my breeding colony of Hypancistral species Garupa. I'm very limited of space, so I work with a lot of 10-gallon tanks. You have to keep in mind, you have to keep up with your water. Here's a Hypancistral species Garupa. This species is actually, I know of 3 people that have bred them, and I'm one of them. The other is Dale, and there's a person selling some on Aqua Bay right now. I'm not sure who that is, but they all came through Dale Ernst in Michigan, and he imported them. They're probably one of the bigger ones of the Hypancistral family, and the deal with them is that they're going extinct because of the Belo Monte dams getting built on Brazil, and I have a little section about that in a minute. But there's some babies, so I'm hoping to grow some out and pass them around so people can, keep them as well in case I lose mine. I got that mentality of spreading fish around throughout the hobby. In case you lose yours, you can always have, other people having that mindset of don't keep your eggs in one basket. Pretty much.
Some spread over here.
What was that?
Get some spread over here.
No, not at the moment. They're growing. I got some growing out. Here's that Loricaria. Lee was on this trip with me in Hipodromo. We were pulling the seine in Uruguay, and this male came out. Unfortunately, he dropped the egg sac. But what they do is, with their lips, they're able to hold the eggs while they're incubating and stuff. There's an egg sac. Unfortunately, they're not going to take them back, so we have to dump the bag in the water. Fish food. Here's a L134 Bicoltia compta, Leprofrog pleco as well as commonly known as. Here's my spawning case. From the beginning, about here till about right there, I was making them myself with this lady who has a pottery store by my house. I sat down with her and looked at the fish needs and looked at what we could do. So I thought, hey, the way the plecos breed is the males will push the female in the cave, and he'll hold on to he basically just force her in there and keep her in there. So he's on top of it. Sometimes I actually lost a lot of fish to this because some of the caves they were getting stuck on the way out, so they couldn't get out, and they eventually died from that, the stress and everything. So we sat down and we developed this cave right here with a kind of like a hump on it, so it'll give the males enough space to stay in there, and when he come out, he can just come straight back. Bamboo caves. I'm cutting my own bamboo. I'm sure you guys can do it too. Just make sure about pesticides. I've noticed about 2-3 weeks ago they're going around and doing pesticides for mosquitoes. So be very careful to where you get it from. Whiptails love this stuff. I had a whiptail from Colombia breeding them. They'll come in and then push the female, and the female will just go out the other way, and he will just have a ton of eggs going around the cave, and you can stay there protecting them. So those are pretty cool when it comes to that. But they also serve as a food, they eat it, as you can tell. So you have a lot of debris in the water as well with that. So if you don't want to deal with the debris, then just go with a cave made by clay. Here's what I was telling you about. It's fatter in the middle, in the front, and it closes down, pinches in the end. So the female goes in, and the male can come up, and that way when they come out, he doesn't get stuck coming out of the cave. This cave was developed because of my garupas, Hypacistrus species garupas. They love the flatter ones, but I noticed that I also keep a lot of apistos at that point. I will have a pair in each 10-gallon tank with plecos, and the apistos were going in them because, let me see if I have a picture. Yeah, because the female was able to go on the side and protect it, so you couldn't even, with a flashlight, you couldn't even look in there to see if they have eggs, and neither did plecos. So, that was perfect for the apistogramma, so I kind of just gave up on them and gave it to the apistos, and the plecos, they couldn't have them because of the apistos pretty much. I got this from South Central Cyclics. Nancy developed them. They're like a D-shaped cave, but longer. I haven't had very much luck with them. I think they're just too long for the fish, but I mean, people might have luck with them. Doesn't mean, they don't work for them. Some of the pictures of the plecos I've had the opportunity to see, L46s, that's when Scott brought a bunch of them into the country. Here's a leopard cactus from my friend Earl Bernstone. As I was mentioning, the leprocacticos are very territorial, and they have the spines coming through in their teeth, so they'll rough each other up. So you want to give them enough caves on each side if you have like 2 males, so they can just pick their own section. And as it work out for most of us, the 2 males will like the same side, and they'll just end up fighting and killing one or the other, or both of them die, and then you just stuck with females. Here's a Panacoclidon. This is the pleco that my friend's working with. They're huge. What happened was about in the 80s, there was the store with this pleco is they went extinct. Well, the reason they went extinct was because of it was a younger girl. She went down to Colombia to kind of like fun. She was swimming in the river they come from, and she got stung by a stingray. Her father, a very wealthy man from here in the United States, developed a poison with some scientists because he wanted, basically he was mad. So he developed a poison to kill everything that's on the bottom, all the bottom dwellers, and he wiped all of them down. Well, they just found a new location, like a stream that came out to that river where they found more. So you can actually see them for sale right now, but with a price tag of about $600 to $700 up to $900 for one. So that's one of those that I'll probably wait a while until somebody's breeding them to get some. Here's an L201. You can find them easily in the hobby, anywhere about $20 to $30 a piece. The Colticonta. Right now, actually, I saw an auction on Aquabee for for 3 of them for like $400. And I'm kind of bummed that I got rid of my group, so I wish I would have kept them. L200s, Byron Sisters, they're actually working with them right now. They've been running captivity, something to work, something nice. They're in the $40 range, so they're more affordable.
How big do those get?
Those get about 4 inches, but there is a species that it looks the same that gets a little bigger. The Rio G. I don't know if he ever had any luck with them. Here's a little section about preserving Brazil and other species from Brazil and surrounding areas. The Belo Monte location is in the Rio Xingu in Brazil, but the Brazilian government is in the process of building a dam. So basically, all the fish from that section, and they're going to be wiped out because of that. Brazil is one of the toughest countries to get fish out. There's only probably 2 exporters out of there, and they're sending all the fish to Europe and Asia because they're willing to pay the high prices for fish that we're not. We basically get knocked off secondhand stuff they don't want. And the fish we do get are smuggled through Colombia or Peru or Ecuador, so they have to travel a long distance, so you have to add the gas, the time and the risk all these fishermen are taking smuggling out of fish out of the country. So that's why you have a lot of high prices on plecos. There's a dam, basically, so they're going to cut all this section of the river and shoot it that way. So basically all the species from that section, which are your most common, like your L46s, your Hypocystris garupa, some gold nuggets, leporacanthicus, like the sultan plecos, they're going to be hurt. Planet Singu was developed by Julian from planetcatfish.com, and he was able to raise $11,000 to fund a research team to go down there to get biogenetics, information about the surroundings of the environment, the fish themselves, and all this data that can help them in the future for, maybe bringing them back into the nature if they go extinct. Here's the Rio Xingu, very rocky, high temperature, very warm water. There's a plecos out of there, gold nugget, Ecoltius vitata, peppermint pleco, really nice fish. Another peppermint. Here's a golden vampire pleco, Leporacanthicus, and all these fish will be, endangered without our help. So special thanks to Earl D. Brunson for his amazing pictures, Felipe Cantera from Acuba Terra Eco Travels down in Uruguay, and Julian Dignal for some of the information. And that's it. Do you have any questions?
On the caves that you made, it looked like they were closed at the back.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a reason?
Mostly of the plecos, all the caves you can get in the market are close to the back. What they do is they have in the mud in nature, they're able to make the caves, so there's no way out. So that's that's what they use for protection, because it's easier to protect something that's coming out of one end, and they're able to circulate water as well. So it's just kind of like a cycle in there when they're moving their fins, but it's mostly for security for the eggs and the babies. Anything else?
How long has it? I'm sorry. How long has it been that I just have kind of just recently noticed some plecos at different stores and the prices were, I cut fish when I was a child, and plecos there was like one, and they were $2, and everybody had one. So is this kind of a new thing?
Actually, Art, didn't you tell me that about 10 years ago you bought a zebra for $46 or something like that?
Maybe like 18 to 20 at a wholesaler in Ohio.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, I remember when I first started with the plecos 8 years ago, I was able to get the pleco frogs for $20 a piece. And now you can only find them for, so much, like $80 and $100. So in the past 10 years, everything's just changed rapidly. So Brazil developed more laws against, going fishing. If you're not Brazilian and you're Brazil, you get a fish net wet in the water, you go to prison.
Really?
So
yeah.
That's another thing. So that's why a lot of these people are like, all right, we need to bring the prices up so we can, make a little profit. You had a question, yes, sir.
What species are you working with now?
Right now I'm working with vampires, L240s out of Colombia. I'm working with L100s, which is like a smaller bushy-nosed pleco. black with kind of like a peppermint, like I showed here, like that, but it's an ancestral species. So they develop the bush nose. Hypancistrus groupas, I'm working with those, and let me think. I'm working with red bristlenose, the red ones, new form that they've developed from land breeding. L144s, I think Erica brought it back some of those. Long fin, bushy nose, and I think that's about it right now. Yes, sir. Yes,
If
ma'am.
somebody was to venture outside of the bristlenose into something a little bit different, what would you suggest as good fish to play with?
Well, the first question will be, what's your budget? What are you looking at? You know, like as far as
Moderate
spending.
budget, moderate space, you know, your average hobbyist.
Average hobbyist, if you're going to, I'm thinking you're probably going to end up paying somewhere around $100 and $120 for at least 3, do 4 plecos maybe.
But what
And-
species are doing?
I would go with Hypancistras. I find them they're the easier ones to breed. Coltias are very temperamental, so if they don't like you, they're not going to breed for you. So that's the way it is with the Coltias. Leperocanthicus, you need a lot of space and a lot of time because they need to mature. They'll probably be that big before they breed. So Hypancistras will be the best way to go.
You think the Hypancistras is easier than the ancestors?
No, I said Hypancistras are easier than Coltias. Ancestors are cake.
Oh, yeah. She
Yeah.
said if you wanted to get away.
And Citrus is the starter play.
Yeah, ancestral will be your starters. That's the one you want to keep if you want to venture into the pleco hobby. And then if you have luck with them, hey, come on, move on to something harder. Yes, ma'am.
I have L10A plecos, and I
Red
want.
lizards.
Yeah, so they've got long lip tails, and they're really cool looking. And I heard that they were carnivorous, so I put them in a tank with L144s because I figured they probably wouldn't hybridize because they're pretty.
No, they're not
Their
hybridized.
genus, yeah, they're pretty far apart. And the ones that I put in that tank eat the zucchini with the L144s, and the one that I just have in a tank by themselves, because I just want them to breed, right? I don't care. I'll stick them everywhere, wherever they breed. That's great, Keep doing that. So in the 55, I gave them zucchini, and they didn't know what it was, and they didn't eat it. Are they meat eaters, or are they
Here's the
vegetarians?
thing. Rhinoloricarius
Yeah.
are meat eaters.
Why are they eating the zucchini? Are they
The
jealous?
thing is, I don't know if you ever noticed, but this is what I do. When I come from collecting trips, I normally put fish, wild fish, with other fish that I have that I don't care if I lose. Because the other fish that I have, they know that's food, so they go to it. They have attention to it. So the wild fish are like, oh wait, what are they going to it? So they go for it. So that's what's happening with your Rhinoloricarius. They're like, oh, why are they all the other plecos going to that? So let's just go, and they
Yeah.
eat it. They're getting, they
okay.
are a meat eater, but they will accept other stuff.
Okay, so keep adding meat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then also about having 2 pleco species in one tank, will that work? Like, is it worth trying? Or, I mean,
It works for me. I have
Yeah.
Ancestors. I'm working with the reds, like I say.
yeah.
And I have a Hypancistras groupas in 120 long right now. 'Cause
Okay,
I want to
so
grow
they
out
don't.
I want to grow out the Ancestors a little, better. So I'm feeding a lot of protein in that tank, so they'll take that protein.
So if you just add a lot of caves, maybe they'll both breed in the same tank.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
definitely. But keep in
Cool.
mind they're territorial, so you want to have a lot of Ks and space them properly.
It's a 75. Yeah.
Good. You're fine.
Okay. Cool.
Fine.
Thank you.
So-
All right. Are there any other questions? No. All right. I'm gonna stop recording.